industry about 20 years now. Started way back when my father brought home our first computer and said, don't touch it. So naturally, I spent the next several years tearing it apart. Coming from the old days of phone phreaking and bulletin board systems and dial-up, and having some of the older guys kind of coach me through a lot of the technology as we grew together in it. After that, when I became of age, I joined the U.S. military, and with the United States Army, I was a missile defense crew member. It became known that I had a technical background, and I enjoyed toying with computers and fixing and taking things apart. And from there, I got additional duty out to military intelligence, and I guess my official cybersecurity career started about then, except back then it wasn't called cybersecurity. Fast forward several years later with several different jobs as a consultant working for Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and a few three-letter government agencies. I went out and started my own firm and have been consulting ever since. During that time, I've had the honor and the pleasure of speaking at numerous different events and being featured on local and national television as well as radio, and currently I am a talk show host focusing on tech, politics, and local events in Eastern North Carolina.
Nice. And where can people find you, actually, now that you say that?
Well, if people want to get more about me, they want to catch up on the show, they can go to thecharlestendellshow.com. Really easy to find, really easy to do, and yeah.
Cool. And my last question, and probably the most important, is what gets you excited about cybersecurity? Because it can be something that feels like a huge void that you just have to keep placating to. But what gets you excited about cybersecurity, and what keeps you there?
The people. It used to be at one point there were always different puzzles, different ideas, different things to toy with, you know. But as I've gotten older, I'm one of those guys that wants to tinker less and wants to enjoy more. But what's kept me in the area of cybersecurity, or in the area of hacking in general, has been the people overall, and almost hands down. Every day I meet somebody that's got a different outlook, a different background, a different style, a different image on diversity, and every day I watch those people team up with someone you wouldn't expect to accomplish some absolutely amazing things, and they keep doing it over and over and over again, and the people are just every day impressing me.
That's awesome. That's awesome here, because that's something that we agree on here at iSECURE. It's the people that we care about. It's not the machines that we're concerned about, because those are replaceable, but like these types of things touch people's lives and can have a great impact on those lives. So I'll be quiet now, and I'll pass over the presenter rights and get you started. Again, everybody, Charles Tindell, we're going to be doing Q&A throughout. Feel free to throw any questions you may have in the chat, and I'll pass them right over to Charles at the end.
Right on. Well, thank you, Mark. Let me make sure I've got everything here that I need to do. Now I've got the screen share button going on. Nope, wrong one. Here. Want to make sure I just shared the application. There we go. Hopefully everybody can see.
Yep, looks good.
Screen. All right. So again, Mark, thank you for the opportunity and the time for getting to talk to your audience today. I really appreciate that. And iSECURE, it has been a pleasure to be in the position that I'm in, and an honor to have been reached out to by any organization to actually speak on a topic that's near and dear to my heart. So thank you again for the opportunity, for allowing me to be here. Today we're talking about the definition of a hacker, and depending on where you are in your career, depending on where you are in the nation, in your life, in what you've heard, you may have different notes in your mind about what a hacker actually does and what a hacker actually looks like. And me and a few other people have been out in the community, out in the industry, and out in the world trying to present a different image for what professional hackers actually look like, regardless of what part of the world you're in. And it's become a bit of a crusade. So if you're out there and you want to get a part of this, there is some hashtagging stuff that you can do out there. I know social media craziness, but hashtag I am a hacker is the one that we're trying to get moving and getting out there so that people understand the different styles and aspects of what hackers look like. So typically in my presentations, I have a slide that tells all about me. It tells about where you can find more information. You can go over to my website. It tells about how I got the honor to be the technical author on the most recent Certified Ethical Hacker Test Guide. It talks about my podcast. It talks about news media and everywhere else that I've been. But I think over the course of this presentation, you guys are going to get a pretty good feel of who I am and who the people that I enjoy about this industry are. So if you want to get more, this slide is purposely left blank. If you want to get more about who I am, definitely go over to the CharlesTendelShow.com and check out my show. I talk a lot about tech and politics at some points. This past week, I've been covering the local elections in my local area, mostly because I've been trying to get people motivated and active out there to try and vote in not only my city, but nationally. So if you definitely want to know more about me, please visit my website. It's thecharlestendelshow.com, and you can see a lot more about what I'm about there. Where I want to start here is, in the world right now, hackers have a bit of a bad rap. We're seen as these evil, malicious, bad guys that are much more often than not are seen as the ones causing trouble. And it all begins with kind of the early definitions, even in the dictionary, of who we are. The one that everyone focuses on, everyone seems to hold on to, is a person who illegally gains access to and sometimes tampers with information on a computer system. And each and every one of us that come into this industry, we're well aware of the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. We're well aware of legal boundaries. We're well aware of the expectations of us as we begin to grow in our skill and our talents and in our passions. So we're often caught off guard when it's naturally assumed that we're the bad guys. And it all starts because of this definition. And again, thank you to iSECURE and everybody else who's championing this, but we're trying to change this definition because depending on where you come from, you might think a hacker is a whole bunch of different things. And when you ask someone, outright, when you ask a teacher or someone on the street, what do you think a hacker looks like, or who do you think a hacker is, or when you hear the term hacker, what pops into your head? And most times people grab their phones, or they worry about something that got breached on Facebook, or they hear about Equifax or one of these other places. They hear all of the negatives because places like the mainstream media and Hollywood have portrayed hackers as just the bad guys, the ones always doing it. And it seems like a day doesn't go by where we don't hear about something hacking related going out there and getting our data stolen. We have people after the Equifax breach coming out and saying, it's just inevitable. You're all going to get hacked. These guys are just out there, and there's these armies. You have massive level breaches with people like Yahoo and Facebook. And I don't know if anybody else was paying attention to a few minutes ago, but Facebook went down. And there was a little bit of clamor about, hackers took out Facebook for half the United States or half the world. And of course, it becomes a headline, or it becomes an idea, it becomes a spark in somebody's head, because these headlines are catchy. They grab your attention and they make you read. Well, most people stop at the headline or that first blurb. I've noticed a lot of news has begun to putting bullet points so you don't actually have to read the article, and they can feed it to you however they choose. But the imagery continues. It continues to place us, the hackers, in this position where we're all seen as the bad guys. We're all seen as the ones that can't possibly be doing anything good. Even with, for example, the Yahoo breach. And for anybody who doesn't already know, Yahoo did upgrade from 3 billion to, did say that it was hacked to all of its customers recently. So hopefully everybody's been following that one. But again, when people hear about hacks or hacking, all they think about is my email got broken into, I got phished, my Facebook got stolen, whatever it is that you can imagine for these headlines. And even in mainstream media, when you go out and you see online all of these images and these still photography and all this other stuff, Mashable had a great article about this, where we're all seen as hating the sunlight and working in these dark environments or in these caves, or we're all out there wearing Guy Fawkes masks, which is something interesting and is something that most people don't even go far enough to relate to understand why that's even a thing. And no, it's not a standard thing. While we have them and people play with them, like I've got one that I toy with, and I'm sure everybody that's listening to my voice right now might have one or have played with one or has seen them with people like Anonymous. But the story behind that was Guy Fawkes, which was the original mask that everybody seems to attribute to Anonymous. Guy Fawkes saw something wrong in his government and went to take action against that. And when he got stopped, he became a symbol of someone who gets up and does something to change the narrative, to change the picture, to change the idea. Now, depending on how old you are, and depending on what time in your life you started seeing hackers, Hollywood has portrayed us a little differently. You know, it's always been kind of cool to be the hacker, but the hackers are always doing something to misbehave. They're always breaking the rules just for their own personal gain. But the message that most people miss in all of this is they're doing it because they want to see if they can. They want to get to the point of finding that loophole, that problem. And if people would listen to them, if the information were able to be changed and it wasn't run by people that all they really wanted to do was profit, you might get more information in a better way. And like I said, depending on what part and what age you were when you were first interacted with or you first saw this, you got various different imagery of hackers just being curious and doing these outlandish, crazy things and playing games and starting virtual wars with this notion that they didn't know what they were doing and this kind of careless idea that they didn't care what they were doing. It was all a big game to them. But most hackers believe differently. Most hackers believe that anything that we do is going to have a consequence, and we see far enough down the line that that consequence might impact other people in a negative way. So when we see these images in movies, it's comical, it's entertaining, it's fun, you know, and I don't know what part of the world everybody else is in or whether a Matrix reference even makes sense to some people, but when the Matrix started to come out, when it started to define yet another generation of hackers out there, you had people that believed that they could change the world just by exposing or exploring or identifying holes or problems and then going out and trying to fix them. Now, because of the definition and the mainstream media and the Hollywood version of what hackers have become, law enforcement has begun to see us in a bit of a negative light as well. And I wouldn't say begun. Since the invention of the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, we've been hunted. Hackers have been put in positions where they have to go and hide what they do or their passions or their ideas or their styles. They can't code freely. They can't chase bugs freely because now they're terrified that some three-letter government agency is going to kick in their door and take them off to jail or confiscate something or force them to answer questions or to rat on their friends or to otherwise not be the person who they want to be. And they spend their days in these groups worried about how they're going to not only do what they like doing, but still continue to do what they feel is right by saving various different people. I mean, there was a recent article that came out about the FBI's new idea on how they're going to get hackers to how they're going to start handling hackers. And there was a bunch of fluffy wordage that was put in there, but the bottom line was they were going to go out and they were going to try and troll hackers. They were going to get them to slip up or say something online or put themselves in a compromising position or get them angry so they'd forget and then get tracked down by a three-letter government agency. Now, if you're a hacker, if you're somebody in this industry, if you're somebody with that idea, if you're somebody who is in any way, shape, or form following the community, you know this is a bad idea, and you know that this is probably going to backfire spectacularly. But that misunderstanding, that lack of realization between who you are dealing with who, and understanding who it is that's out there, becomes apparent in the way that law enforcement deals with us. And depending on where you are in the world And depending on how you see what someone did or didn't do, or what they built or didn't build, it's kind of time for everyone to start focusing on changing this perspective, this definition, this idea, before we have more good people ending up in compromising positions where what they did saves the world, or what they didn't do condemns it. Now, we have a lot of people out there that are trying some amazing things to get this definition changed. This particular picture is Josh Corman from DEF CON 25 this year. Had members of the two gentlemen here on the right are sitting members of Congress. I believe that is, I forget the gentleman's name, but it's Hurd. His last name is Hurd from Texas. They were up on stage at DEF CON, which, if you've never attended, I highly recommend you do. It used to be a rite of passage for all of us. We all used to go and have a good time there. It was DEF CON and the NASA website. Those of us who are old school hackers will know what I mean. But they were there on stage at DEF CON in an environment filled with hackers, filled with these people, filled with what you might think would be the enemy, depending on which slide you fell in on earlier in the presentation. But these gentlemen came as elected officials to hear what the hacker community can actually offer, and pledged themselves to an effort where we're going to open those lines of communication. And all of these things are spearheaded by Josh Corman, the gentleman in the middle here. And I would recommend going out and finding out the things that he's doing. There's even an episode over on the Charles Tendell Show website where he talks about it. It's about redefining hacker. I think it's pinned on my Twitter out there as well, so it's at Charles Tendell. But opening those lines of communication were what we wanted people to do. Now, some of the things that most hackers wish we could get people to see now is we're different. We're not crazy. We're not insane. We're not these evil people that are just out there to tear apart every piece of creation out there or watch the world burn. Now, while I love iSECURE, and you guys did send me some comfy hoodies, so fantastic, I love that. In this picture, you don't see any evil hoodies. You don't see any evil Guy Fawkes masks. You don't see anybody in any color hat whatsoever. You always hear this talk of black hat versus white hat out there, and it's a series of division that just melts away in places like DEF CON and black hat because we forget about that label, And when you look at pictures like this, when you look at things like this from an environment where you would expect there to be bad guys, there's a lot of diversity. There's a lot of different people. There's a lot of different color hair. There's a lot of different backgrounds. There's a lot of different languages. There's so much differences there that all come together to solve unique problems. They come together to fix things. And if you do go to DEF CON, I do highly recommend hanging out in any of the villages. In fact, my wife this year, she went to the lockpick village because it's all she wanted to do the whole time. She said she wanted to go learn how to lockpick, and I left her alone for like 15 minutes and came back, and she was picking locks like it was nobody's business with a giant smile on her face, standing there with people she had never met before who all were there to learn, to teach, to be taught, and all were willing to show her what was going on. So I do recommend if you go, just take it all in and listen for a little bit. Now, we do wear hats. It does happen. Some of them are white, but most of the time the hats are there for functionality. This particular one was just picking up rogue wireless and Wi-Fi signals out there. So it was basically doing a, air crack and everything else running on it. And he walked into the Wi-Fi village and it crashed. But most of the time, our hats are funny. They're fun. They're engaging. Sometimes they're functional. Sometimes they make a statement. Sometimes they make people aware of what it is that we support and the freedoms that we support. And sometimes they're black. But a lot of times what we're wearing has to do with, one, we're comfortable, and two, what we want to express as a portion of our personality. If you guys saw the picture that was loaded, I think Mark had it kind of scrolling across the screen there at the top. There was my CNN interview with Don Lemon, and I'm wearing my binary, people who read binary t-shirt, and I have tons of of attitude shirts, as they're put, just because they're comfortable. I like wearing them, and it's all stuff that I would probably say to someone because it goes around in my head. And one of the other things that we do as people, beyond expressing ourselves, is again that working together, that passion we have for solving problems. Here you got two guys that probably haven't met before, standing here, and in front of them, if you guys have been reading the articles that have been floating around on The Verge and everywhere else over the last week, the voting machines finally came out and admitted we're extremely hackable. Well, this year at DEF CON, they had the voting machine hacking village, and within, I think it was 15 to 30 minutes, every one of the machines had been compromised in one way or another. They had been adjusted, or the voting results had been manipulated, or something possible, some sort of corruption was possible with these machines. And teams like these two gentlemen were what made that happen. And the other part of it that makes it even more beautiful is these guys weren't there to be malicious. They weren't there to find the bug, keep it in their pocket, and then later go off and manipulate some third world country or second world country or the United States' elections or voting or anything like that. They turn around and they sit down with the manufacturers who were also there, who also came out to tap into the wealth of knowledge and the creativity and the expertise that people brought to their products. This woman was actually there. She was recording it audio. She was writing it down, taking notes. She was typing it on her iPad. She was calling people. And I sat there and watched her for a good 10 minutes. And she was having an information overload, but loved it because people were coming together with unique ideas from a complex background to solve issues, to put into practice the things that they love doing in an environment that's safe for them, that worked for them, where they didn't have to worry about the misunderstanding of the definition of hacker ending up in them going to jail. Hackers like to take care of each other. We like to take care of not only the systems and the people and the technology that's around, and making sure that people like our parents and our friends and our family and just people in general are doing something that's not going to put them in a position where we're going to have to clean up after them later. When we see breaches like Yahoo or Equifax or Adobe or any of these breaches, and we have researchers out there that say, hey, we told you about this months ago. We told you about this years ago. We told you about this. Why didn't you do anything with it? There is a massive cry to just help people. And I'm pointing out things at DEF CON because I was going through and putting together this presentation, and it dawned on me that I can tell this story in a thousand words a picture versus a whole bunch of wall of text out there. So I wanted to make sure that I captured the essence of things that I saw in this community. And while I was out at DEF CON in Vegas this year, I also attended Black Hat and the Star Trek convention afterwards. But I noticed a few things. I noticed oddities that people wouldn't necessarily pick up. I noticed people at Black Hat bunking with people they had never met. Ever. I'm sorry, I meant people at DEF CON that were bunking with people they had never met, never seen before, or maybe just met on a chat room, or ran into them at the airport and opened their hotel rooms and their homes or their cars for these people so that each other could get to a place where they could enjoy and be who they are. And one of the things that impressed me most was things like this, like the hacker clothing drive. That it wasn't the only example. It was just I just saw it and I had to take a picture of it. It was just something that we have people that if they couldn't afford to get to DEF CON, other people were putting them on planes. If they couldn't afford their tickets at DEF CON, people were coming together to help them with that. If they couldn't afford food, there were funds being put together. If they couldn't afford clothing, people were coming together to donate these things. And again, this is an environment, depending on which part of the world you live in and which definition you follow and which idea you see out there, you think This can't come from hackers. These are the bad guys. These are the ones that aren't involved. They aren't there to help people. And I tell you, well, we got to fix this definition. We have to change the definition, because hackers are the ones that are trying to protect you from not only the technology that you might misuse, but from the misunderstanding of technology in so many different places, in so many different ways, in so many different ideas. The automotive industry, and yes, if you aren't talking about net neutrality, you should probably be worried about it, but in the automobile industry, there are people clamoring. There are researchers everywhere that are spending their time, their energy, their effort, knowing that what they're doing could result in them going to jail, could result in them not being paid, could result in them being fined and losing their jobs, losing their livelihood, that are still stepping out to say, we found something, we want to help you fix it. Because these people are just like me, they're just like you, they're just like everyone out there. And one of the other things that we need to remember about this demographic, about this community of people with heart and amazing skills and amazing talents, is they want to continue this. They want to grow. They want to instill this knowledge and this wisdom in every generation, in every portion, and every person that wants to be receptive to it. And if you're a reporter, if you're a journalist or a blogger, or if you're a hardcore hacker that's been in the industry for 50 years and you hung out with Captain Crunch phone freaking when you were a kid, they want you involved, and they want to pass that wisdom down to people. This is a picture of Roots Asylum, and my first interaction with it was a few years ago when I took my oldest daughter to it. And she learned how to code. She learned how to build wiretaps. She learned how Wi-Fi works. She got to get involved in what I was obsessed with, what I was passionate with, and it was sponsored by Google. And when she left, she had a computer, and it was just the coolest thing, amazing. But that's what we like to do, is expose not only this generation, but the next generation to the things that we love, that we need, and that we believe are qualities that every human being should have. The critical thinking skills, the ideas, the way of working through a problem, the diversity of thought, and the willingness to work with other people in various different backgrounds to do and accomplish some of the most amazing things. Somebody else that you guys might have actually already heard from is Chris Roberts. And when you hear about him, when you meet him in person, he is a huge personality. He is an amazing person, amazing individual that goes out of his way to connect with people, regardless of your technical acumen, regardless of what place you are in the spectrum, but he goes out of his way to teach. And this man, if you know the history of him, has come pretty close to the fire himself. You know, he's the gentleman that came out, ended up going viral on Greta Van Susteren, I want to say a year or so ago, with the airline hacking, where he was preaching and had been preaching for years about the insecurity of the in-flight entertainment system, and the in-flight entertainment system being vulnerable to compromise and being vulnerable to attack by just plugging in a USB. And he was ignored for a long time. He was ignored, and then finally decided, I'm going to put this information out there, but didn't put it fully out there, just made a comment. And then if you follow the story, you know he was escorted off of a plane by a 3-letter government agency. In spite of all of that, because of all of that, he went out and kept teaching, kept showing people, kept enlightening people, and kept spreading his knowledge and wisdom freely throughout the community, throughout the people that he cares about. And yeah, I'm not sure why I put a random picture of the phone booth there, but we do all kind of have this weird obsession with old school telephone technology. And the story behind that is early on in connectivity, early on in the internet, we only communicated via telephone. And the telephone switching system was so archaic and so broken and so open for everyone to mess with, that everyone took the opportunities to do it. And if you heard me earlier, I mentioned Captain Crunch, who figured out how to use a whistle out of a Captain Crunch cereal box to be able to dial the tones necessary to get free long distance on the local telephone company. And when approaching these people to explain to them how this all works, got hit with lawsuits or got hit with the police, and thus the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act was born. But anytime you find payphone paraphernalia out there, it's something you probably are going to need to get used to, because that's one of the things that we all look at. But we like different things. So who am I? I'm a veteran. I'm a son. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm a brother. I speak to you guys, and I've got my podcast, and I've got my show, and I get to go on television, and I help write books, and I champion other people's abilities to do different things. I'm an activist. I like to get people out and busy and informed, and I like to give them the opportunity to have conversations or meet people or engage in things they otherwise wouldn't, just for the sake of earning that wisdom and that knowledge and that experience. I would like to consider myself everyone's friend. I try, but friendship is something that is earned, and it is something that is very highly valued, but I'm open to being friends with anyone, and I'm genuinely a good person. At least I like to think I'm a good person. You know, there are people out there that I'm sure believe differently, exes or somebody like that. I also like playing vintage video games with my boy. He recently got introduced to some old school Punch-Out and decided he was going to take it completely over from me, thus the look on my face. And this all brings me down to why we're here. And it's changing the definition of a hacker. A hacker is first and foremost someone with a curiosity and a thirst for knowledge, for wisdom, for experience, who sees the world as a giant puzzle, and a puzzle that they can help solve, or that they can bring their friends with and solve, or that they can work in groups of people to solve this with. Because you see those memes on the internet with the baby in the fish pump moment. That's what we strive for. And it's not to be malicious. It's not to be angry. It's not to be aggravating. And it's not to take away freedoms from anyone, anywhere, at any point in time. It's just to see if we can change the way something works. And 9 times out of 10, it's for the better. It's for the furtherment of our technology. Furthermore, I think we should change the definition to someone with an intimate understanding of technology and a desire to use that technology in a creative way, because that's what everybody does. And yes, the exceptions to the rule are out there. The bad people are out there. The malicious hackers are out there who do just want to watch the world burn, but they are few and far between. In fact, I liken this definition to something along the lines of the gun control argument we're currently having. You know, people are saying we have so much gun violence, we have so many things happening, but these are the exceptions to the rule. If we looked at all the statistics, if we looked at all the numbers, and if we put every hacker behind a keyboard and they were all motivated to do something malicious, we would have way more than a few minutes outage on Facebook that causes the world to think it's ending. Because the people who I'm talking about, real hackers, don't want to destroy the technology, the world, or the people that they actually cherish so much. And third, for the definition, someone that has a genuinely good heart and is looking to make a difference. Now, I'm pretty sure those 2, 3, and definitely 4 aren't going to make it into the Webster's dictionary, because, you know, if we could totally get the saviors of the technical universe into the dictionary, I think it would be fantastic, you know, like Batman, only cooler, you know. And if you guys are wanting to help me with this, if you're wanting to help me and anyone else out there, Josh Corman's doing it, Chris Roberts is doing it, every major name hacker out there you can imagine is doing it. There's Amit Serpa from Cyber Reason, who recently stopped Pate out there. He's trying to help with it. We're trying to get this movement going where we can change the definition of hacker for the good for everyone in media, on television, online, the references in corporate America, and getting more people that may look a little different, they may look a little crazy, they may wear shorts and an attitude t-shirt with a ball cap and a mohawk or a funky looking hat with technology on it. But give these people a chance and stop putting them in a position where they won't help you or that they can't help you. So if you're interested, it's no more hoodies is the hashtag, and I am a hacker is the other hashtag. Again, the no more hoodies thing is really around the stock photos that are floating around the internet where you always see the bad guys, the hackers have their hoodie on and you can't see their face thing. They're comfortable. We like them. They're not our trademark. It's not how it works. We like different things for different people. Now, some people might wonder, hey, is this radical, crazy idea? Well, someone that built the technology that most people use, and I've mentioned a couple of times today, has been Facebook. And Mark Zuckerberg put it together better than anyone and championed the idea of a hacker, whether you like him or not, whether you like the platform or not. He brought millions of people, I think we could even round it up to billions of people together based on an idea that he hacked together on a college campus somewhere and brought it into fruition. And his overall definition is hacking just means building something quickly or testing the boundaries of what can be done. Hackers are doers. They're people that want to change something, and instead of sitting and waiting and watching, we go out and find ways to solve the problem. We go out and find ways to make it better. We go out and find ways to make sure that your iPhone talks to iCloud or that your Android talks to, the mothership Google, however you want to put that. And we work together to get things done. So with you and iSECURE and everybody's help, I look forward to having everyone help get this movement even further along and getting things done. So if you're interested, if you're listening, if you're out there on your LinkedIn or you're out there on your social media, go ahead and introduce yourself to the world. Tell them, I am a hacker, and my name is Charles, and indeed, I do spell cool with a K. It's just a thing that I do, so go out there, guys, and find hashtag no more hoodies and hashtag I am a hacker, and let's get this conversation moving along in the right direction. Again, if you guys want to see more about me or you want to learn anything else about me, definitely go over to the charlestendellshow.com. That's where my show is. It's where the things that I like to talk about on a daily basis are. It's lately been really local tech, political stuff going on, but getting back into the tech here soon. So if you guys want to, please do join me over on the charlestendellshow.com. And if you want to do something one day and you see me out, just buy me a beer. I like beer. We all like beer. It's a fantastic thing. Sometimes it's free. Sometimes it's not. You'll get that reference later. So I don't think I went over my time. I think I'm pretty good. And I think at this point, we can open it up to questions and go from there.
Yeah, Charles, thank you so much. That's awesome. And just to ring the No More Hoodies thing in, over the summer we did the official hacker hoodies, and the idea that we too want to change the definition of what a hacker looks like, but by playing to those stereotypes a little bit, so people can be introduced to what they think a hacker is, and then meet somebody completely different. So it's awesome that you got to ring that point home, and you can bet your bottom dollar we're definitely going to be using that hashtag in all of our social media posts.
Fantastic.
Let me look and see if we have any questions. Someone asked, man, maybe they missed it earlier, but if you want to ring home one more time, like what drives your message? What drives you and your messaging? If you want to just ring that one home once more, that'd be great.
Well, what honestly drives home, what gets me motivated about this message and about this style, again, is we have really good people that are begging to get their message heard, to get their ideas put together, and to get out and be able to code freely, to challenge the system freely, and to be able to approach not only organizations but consumers and technology with the tools they have and not have to worry about always being seen as malicious. So a big thing that motivated me was the way we interacted with, say, Marcus Hutchins recently. We have researchers that have come out that are doing great things, but we have a lot of people that are terrified of coming forward. One analyst that I met many years ago, he was very young when I met him, and he's off doing some amazing stuff now. He spotted the NTP DDoS before it started, before it happened, and he approached under the course of my lab. We approached several different companies, and with those companies, we got mostly letters back from their legal department saying, "Go away, you evil hacker." So getting over that and getting companies to be more responsive to hackers individually or behind a company and championing projects like HackerOne is what I'm all about.
Awesome. That is awesome. I did get one other question. What is your favorite vintage video game?
Ooh, Punch-Out is definitely high on my list because it's Punch-Out. If you've never played Punch-Out, you weren't a kid in the 90s. Let's see, Zelda is one of my favorite out there. Star Fox on I think.
Oh, that's
Super
a good
Nintendo.
one.
Yeah, yep. And then Sonic the Hedgehog, Sega Genesis.
Classic.
Yeah,
And
actually,
then
it's
go
funny.
on.
The gaming system, if anybody's interested, the gaming system that my son and I were playing is a Retro Pi. So we took a Raspberry Pi that I won out at Black Hat this year. I won at one of their quick table hacking contests where you go up, you solve a puzzle, and they give you a prize. Well, I won a full Raspberry Pi Cana kit and turned it into a small little plug into your TV game system and introduced my son to every classic game I could think of growing up, and we sat there for hours just playing. So if you guys are interested, go check out Raspberry Pi or Retro Pis and build to your heart's content.
That's awesome. And then what's your favorite beer? I'm imagining Coors Light just from the picture, but you tell me.
Well, Coors Light was the only one that I could get while I was on my trip out to Las Vegas. So that was my RV fridge. I like craft beer. A friend of mine sent me some from a brewery out in California. I forget what the name of the brewery was, but I'm a big craft beer fan. If you want to send me craft beer for anything, I'm totally fine with that. Craft beer anywhere.
We are craft beer country up here in Rochester. So
nice.
Cool. All right, it looks like that is all for questions. Again, let everybody know where to reach out to you at, all your handles and all that, and then we will close it up after that.
My pleasure. Again, thank you for having me, Mark, and iSECURE. If you want to follow me, you can go over to the charlestendellshow.com. That's where my show sits. You can follow me on Twitter at Charles Tendell. Once you do, just drop me a note. Let me know that you did and you came from iSECURE, and say hi and definitely get connected. On Facebook, I know is the mother of all evil social medias, but you can find the Charles Tendell Show there as well. But out of those things, I think you can get a hold of me pretty quick.
Sweet. Thanks so much, Charles. This was awesome. And let's connect after this. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.